When considering the mounting of an electrical subpanel, several key aspects of the National Electrical Code, or NEC, must be taken into account. This includes clearance requirements, suitable mounting locations, the potential reuse of existing conduit, and other important considerations to ensure a safe and compliant electrical installation. Firstly, let's address the NEC clearance requirements. Article 110.26 of the NEC is very specific about the working space required around electrical equipment operating at various voltages. This working space ensures that electricians and other qualified personnel have adequate room to safely inspect, maintain, and repair the equipment. The NEC mandates minimum distances both in front of and to the sides of electrical panels. These distances vary depending on the voltage of the equipment and the conditions present on the opposite side of the working space. Condition 1 exists where there is exposed live parts on one side and no live or grounded parts on the other side of the working space, or where there are exposed live parts on both sides effectively guarded by suitable wood or similar insulating material. Condition 2 exists where there are exposed live parts on one side and grounded parts on the other side. Condition 3 exists where there are exposed live parts on both sides of the working space that are not guarded. For example, for equipment operating at 480 volts, the required working space depth is typically 3 feet for condition 1, 3.5 feet for condition 2, and 4 feet for condition 3. These are minimums and may need to be increased based on specific circumstances. It is crucial to accurately measure the available space in front of the potential mounting location to ensure compliance with these requirements. In addition to the depth of the working space, the NEC also specifies minimum widths. The working space must be at least 30 inches wide or the width of the equipment, whichever is greater. This width must be maintained from the floor to a height of 6.5 feet or the height of the equipment, whichever is greater. When assessing a potential mounting location, it is important to consider any obstructions that may encroach upon this working space. This includes existing equipment, piping, and structural elements. Any such obstructions must be carefully evaluated to determine if they violate the NEC clearance requirements. In the specific scenario of mounting a new subpanel adjacent to existing subpanels on a back wall, it is important to carefully measure the distance from the side of the new subpanel to the existing subpanels. If the existing subpanels are close enough that they would impede access to the new subpanel's front working space, this would be a violation of Article 110.26 of the NEC. The location would therefore be non-compliant. Secondly, consider the available mounting locations. An electrical closet may seem like a logical choice, but it is important to carefully evaluate the space to ensure that it meets all NEC requirements. If there is space available on the side wall of the electrical closet, this may be a viable option, provided that the required working space can be maintained in front of the subpanel. Alternatively, a telephone closet might be considered. However, it is essential to verify that the telephone closet is indeed suitable for electrical equipment. Telephone closets typically have different environmental and access requirements than electrical closets. It is also important to ensure that the telephone closet is large enough to accommodate the subpanel while still maintaining all required NEC clearances. Mounting an electrical subpanel in a janitor's closet is generally not permitted due to the presence of plumbing fixtures and other non-electrical equipment. The NEC prohibits the installation of electrical equipment in damp or wet locations, and a janitor's closet with a wash sink would typically be considered such a location. Thirdly, address the potential reuse of existing conduit. If the existing conduit is of the correct size and type for the new conductors, and if it is in good condition, it may be possible to reuse it. However, it is important to carefully inspect the conduit to ensure that it is free from damage and that it is properly supported. It is also important to check the conduit fill to ensure that the new conductors will not exceed the maximum allowable fill percentage. The presence of blue lube or wire pulling lubricant can make it easier to pull new conductors through existing conduit. However, even if blue lube was used, it may still be necessary to use additional lubricant to facilitate the pulling process. If blue lube was not used, it may be more difficult to pull new conductors, and it may be necessary to use larger or more powerful pulling equipment. In some cases, it may even be necessary to install new conduit. Fourthly, here are some other considerations to keep in mind. Inspect the existing electrical equipment, including the main distribution panel and any other subpanels in the area. This will help identify any potential space limitations or other issues that may affect the installation of the new subpanel. Obtain accurate measurements of the available space and the dimensions of the new subpanel. This will help ensure that the subpanel will fit in the chosen location and that all required clearances can be maintained. Develop a detailed plan for the installation of the new subpanel. This plan should include the location of the subpanel, the routing of the conductors, and any necessary modifications to the existing electrical system. Consult with a qualified electrical contractor to ensure that the installation meets all applicable codes and regulations. Finally, estimate the costs of the job based on the mounting location and other factors. This estimate should include the cost of the subpanel, the cost of the conductors, the cost of any necessary conduit or fittings, and the cost of labor. By carefully considering all of these factors, you can ensure that the new electrical subpanel is installed safely, correctly, and in compliance with all applicable codes and regulations. Remember to always consult the latest edition of the NEC and any applicable local codes for the most up-to-date requirements. To summarize, when mounting an electrical subpanel, consider these points. 1. NEC clearance requirements. Article 110.26 dictates minimum working space around electrical equipment for safety. Measure the available space and ensure compliance, considering voltage levels and potential obstructions. 2. Mounting locations. Evaluate the electrical closet for side wall mounting possibilities, ensuring required working space. Assess the suitability of a telephone closet, considering its environmental and access requirements. Avoid janitor's closets due to potential code violations from plumbing fixtures. 3. Conduit reuse. Inspect existing conduit for suitability, damage, and fill capacity. The presence of blue loop can simplify wire pulling. If it was not used, consider using larger pulling equipment or installing new conduit. 4. Other tasks. Inspect existing electrical equipment for space limitations. Obtain precise measurements of the available space in the new subpanel. Develop a detailed installation plan, consulting with a qualified electrical contractor to ensure code compliance. 5. Cost estimation. Estimate job costs based on the mounting location and other factors, including materials and labor. By adhering to these guidelines and consulting the NEC, you can ensure a safe, compliant, and cost-effective subpanel installation.